Welcome back to another episode of Conversational with Carrie Olson. I'm joined today by my friend Rachel Porter, who is a fellow voice actor and Kansas Citian. Rachel, could you give us a little introduction? Just tell us who you are, what you do, and just a little bit about your business.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Rachel. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in business 10 plus years. We'll probably get into this, but I have lots of different facets of my business. Started Voiceover in 2017 and just kind of went from there. So I'm a mom of 3 kiddos. I have multiple streams of income, which I assume we'll get to.
Yes.
But that's a little bit about me.
Okay, awesome. So Rachel and I have been friends for 20 some odd years.
Yeah, 25 years.
And yeah, so one of the reasons I wanted to bring Rachel on the podcast is because she started her business. And one of the things that I really admired about her was that she just went gung-ho from the very start. And really, from my perspective, had the attitude of like, I'm not taking no for an answer. Like, I'm going to make this work. So can you tell us a little bit about those early days and what was your training like? What was your mindset like?
Yeah. I remember starting and thinking, okay, I'm just going to give this a year. I'm going to try it. So like, I'm a firstborn. So in some ways I'm risk averse, but in some ways I'm kind of like, want to be rebellious and like stick it to you. So like, yes, I did kind of have this and still do to this day, like I'm going to make this work. Gosh darn it. And so just started auditioning like crazy. You know, at the time it was pretty challenging with my kiddos' ages. I think they were like 8, 6, and 2. And so like trying to start with little kids at home was tricky. I remember like when the kids were in school, I would start auditioning, or even in the summer, like getting a babysitter and just trying to audition, but also like directly reach out to people who might hire voice actors. I started doing training with the coach, you know, especially at the beginning, like it's so hard because they say you need a demo, but then you maybe shouldn't make a demo because you still got a lot of work to do. So it's the whole cart before the horse, like which starts first. So yeah, I remember, and even in that first year, questioning myself a couple times, like, is this worth it? Should I keep doing this? Because it's really hard sometimes to see the forest through the trees and to see that fruit early on. And I think in our industry, you know, fruit does take time. I mean, literally years later, people can come to you and say, hey, I have this project and you sent me this email. So yeah, there were definitely times that first year was challenging, but obviously I stayed with it and I'm still doing it all these years later. So yeah.
So what were some of the things early on that kept you going? Was it just this internal drive that you had? Was it community, your training, just the dream was that big? Or what were some practical things that you did early on that when you did have those down times, you powered through it and
yeah, it was probably a combination of things. Probably just the tenacity of like, hey, I want to make this work. Community, people like you. We have a good voiceover community in Kansas City. So there were a couple other actors. I remember once we had a big dinner and they were very far along and doing well in their career. And just being very kind and gentle of like, hey, have you thought about this? Let me introduce you to this person. Let me help you here. That was so huge and so kind. So that was really encouraging. And then just when you do start to get a little bit of traction, you know, I think I called you actually the first time I booked an audition. I remember where I was when I found out. I was like in the school pickup line waiting to get the kids, and I had booked something and was so excited about it and terrified because you're like, wait, what do I do now? You know, just enough to be dangerous. So yeah, that was exciting and also terrifying. But just kind of taking it a step at a time. You know, even 6 months in, I was still wondering, is this for me? I don't know, you know, because it comes with its ups and its downs. And sometimes they are extreme. And even to this day, sometimes those weeks are a roller coaster and you don't quite know what you're getting. But yeah, community was a big piece, just sticking with it, just learning a ton, a lot of growth in that first year, things like that.
Yeah. What were some of your early jobs that you booked?
Yeah, it wasn't anything like super exciting. I think a lot of it was like online web stuff, like a tutorial. I think I did something for a dentist early on, like an IVR, you know, the phone recording system. You know, nothing too sexy or like, you know, this big thing. It was just more like stuff like that to kind of get me started and excited and motivated to do more.
Yeah. So I know that you've had a complicated relationship with commercial work. And so talk a little bit about that, because you've built a business And like you said, it's not always the sexy work that a lot of people like, oh, this is Facebook post worthy necessarily, but it pays. So, but I know that I think we all, whether, whatever type of work we're doing, the commercial is like the bright, shiny stuff that we all want. So how have you navigated that relationship with commercial work versus the work that you're booking?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm still navigating that and still work through it. But yeah, I book commercial work. It's just not my bread and butter. It's not a ton. Even with auditions, I book some, but again, not a ton. I know some voice actors, that's their main thing, is booking auditions all the time. And so, yeah, it's just kind of walking that road as it comes and figuring out where you are booking and then maybe investing for myself a little more time there with the direct reach outs. That's been super successful for me over the years, whether that's via email or LinkedIn, repeat clients, relationships. It says a lot to a client when you say, hey, Rachel is reliable. She's on time. She can do this quickly. So yeah, it's been interesting to walk that road of like maybe what you thought your career would look like and then what it actually does look like. And I think that's a point too where I started maybe adding in different elements that were similar yet different to voiceover. I got an agent here in Kansas City, and now at this point I have several agents throughout the U.S., but she said, hey, do you want to start submitting for on-camera work? And I just had never thought of it. Like, it just was a world I wasn't familiar with. And so I said, yeah, sure, that sounds fun. And so the first thing I did was a self-tape for Planet Fitness. It was this April Fool's spoof. It's still up on my website. It's super fun, but I auditioned and I booked it. And I shot it, and it was really fun. And then I thought, oh, this is a part of the puzzle. This is something I want to do too. And so again, it's not necessarily like you make your plans, but you might end up going another direction, or it takes, they say it's never a straight line. Like it's a path, a winding path, and we don't know what it is. So I try to take it as it comes and be grateful.
Yeah. So I definitely want to talk about that more. But I have a big picture question for you. And this is something I've been wondering for a while. Do you consider yourself a voice actor who also does some other things sometimes? Or are you an entrepreneur and voiceover is something that kind of fits under that umbrella?
I would say only very recently, I would more define myself as an entrepreneur. Like even the past couple years, I would more define myself as an actor instead of just voice actor. Because a few years ago when I started on camera, I can't remember what year it was, but I thought, oh, I just do a little bit of on-camera work. And then it became so fun that it became, hey, I want to be intentional with that. Where in other markets can I work? And that's not a type of work where I can really go get my own stuff. It is through agents and through auditions. And so then I would say probably 2 to 3 years ago, I started defining myself more as I'm an actor. And it's interesting what people might stereotype that as you introduce yourself or what questions they have. But I would say after starting an additional piece of the business this past year, doing more social media marketing, defining myself more as an entrepreneur. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to me, though, that it's only recently that you've started picturing yourself as an entrepreneur, because I see you as being very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Just having known you even before voiceover work. And going that transition from seeing yourself as an actor and now entrepreneur, tell us a little bit about your background. Like, is it surprising that acting is something that has become such a huge part of your life? Is that something that like people who knew you as a child would be like, oh, that totally makes sense that Rachel would be an actor? Or are they like, like how did this happen?
No, I don't think people would think that. But I did have like my first Sony. I remember my grandpa taking us to Toys R Us when we were little. And the naivety of a kid, he says, you can pick out anything in the whole store. And I picked out like my first Sony, and it had like a tape recorder and like a microphone attached to it. And so what I wanted to do was like broadcast. I'd like go around, there's home videos of me like interviewing my sisters. I'm the oldest of 4 girls. And so I would do that. And then my favorite class in high school was radio and television. So that was a big opportunity to go out in the community, do interviews, do like the morning video announcements, things like that. So I don't have a theater background. So I initially thought, hey, I want to do something in broadcast. Even though like the high school I went to, I even remember in the theater department, you have like Paul Rudd and you have Jason Sudeikis, people that came out of this high school and this radio and TV program. And I don't know why, but theater just it wasn't even a thought. And then, went to my freshman year in college, was going to major, taking a radio class. And then the dean of the department pulled me aside and said, I was 18. He's like, your voice is pretty irritating. I wouldn't use it for anything. And
This is one of your professors?
Yes, but it was the head of the department, like the head of the radio broadcast department at that school. And so I bawled my eyes out, like literally outside. Like I remember this girl walking by and asking me if I was okay.
That is so bizarre. Because first of all, your voice, obviously you're a voice actor now.
Yeah.
So, I'm used to, and we're friends. I've heard it, a lot. But I would never say that that's just an odd thing for him to say.
Well, no one should ever say that to an 18-year-old, even if they weren't talented, even if they didn't have it, like there's different ways you could say that or address that. But yeah, just for that.
He just came out and said it.
He just came out and said that. So I bawled my eyes out. I switched that school. I did switch my major more to like a public relations major, went to a different college. So it did definitely change my trajectory for a while.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the background I'm coming from. And you were very instrumental in getting me into voice acting. Like I remember you just being really encouraging, and I had a hall closet that I turned, you're like, hey, just try this microphone, just start auditioning and see what happens. The kids were little and I just started and, just kind of went from there. But at the very first, I was literally recording between like the coats. I
remember that. Yeah.
And I remember this looks so dumb. If anyone knew what I was doing, like they wouldn't be hiring me. But, I remember, I think even you at the time were like, hey, it works. It's actually sound dampening. This will work for a while. And then I slowly upgraded. I don't still record in the coats, although that would be really funny.
Why not?
If I did.
I always say it doesn't matter what it looks like. It matters what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So I want to go back a little bit to that professor. Do you feel like doing what you do now is kind of vindication for that time period, or kind of fulfilling that dream that you had back then, kind of in another way, or redeeming that time maybe?
Yes, absolutely. And then people have said, do you want to go back to him? Well, I think he's probably passed away at this point, but yes, I would if I could want to go back to him. And kind of, it's that classic story of like, I think wasn't even it like Michael Jordan in like middle school basketball, like didn't make it, and it's just like, who are you to say like, you cannot do this for your whole life, for your career? Don't take this path, like what's one person saying that to you? So, yes, it does feel like, hey, like I'm doing this. It's working. Like I love it. Like let's keep going.
And clearly other people love it because you're getting hired.
Right. Yeah. But even back in the day, even with radio and TV or something, I didn't know like voiceover. I had never known a voice actor. It didn't even register that would be a career you could have. And I think that's why I thought like, oh, broadcast, that sounds great. Like become a TV anchor, do something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's a common theme when I talk to people who want to get into voiceover. There's something that happened, whether it's a person who said something to them or just a story they've been telling themselves or something their parents have said that has, like acting's not a serious job or something. Something that happened that has prevented them from taking steps forward and pursuing voiceover or acting or whatever it is as a serious career. So I think it's just fascinating how those little moments, seemingly little moments. I remember things from like elementary school that another child said to me that have like set me off on a different trajectory because you just play that back in your head over and over again. Yeah. So I love that you have overcome that. Do you think that was an intentional thing? Like, was that in the front of your mind as you were getting into voiceover, or is that more in retrospect saying, I'm doing this despite
I think it was more in retrospect, but I also still something I'm struggle with and I got to work through is I'm really hard on myself. And so, that's the type of narrative that you could play in your head when you're having a bad day or a bad week or the phone's not ringing or people aren't booking, and so that's something I have to continually navigate and work through is just not being hypercritical with myself. But that his type of voice is a voice that could come back and try to speak into that things that aren't true. Yeah. So.
You mentioned being kind of risk averse. So how you navigated that? Because starting any kind of business, like there's nothing riskier than going out on your own. True. There's no safety net. So is this something that we'll talk about your kids a little bit here in a little bit, but is this something you would recommend to other people, or is there a part of you that still has kind of some anxiety about, just get a paycheck, just go get a job, have a boss, and have some quote unquote stability?
Yeah, there's times that sounds tempting to me still. But for me, obviously it was a risk and it's still risky. And there's still people that are like, oh, I could never do that. You know, I have a husband and he's working. He also owns his own business, which is another topic. But he has steady clients, though, that are continual, where mine is more up and down, unsure. And so that was really helpful just from a financial perspective, which, you know, I could geek out on personal finance, too, because I used to do some stuff for Dave Ramsey. But, like, that made me have more freedom to go like, hey, let's go try this. Let's go see if I can make some money doing this and have fun doing it. But even talking of safety nets, I mean, that's why I have multiple streams of income, like, because then I can have multiple safety nets.
Yeah.
Because if, you know, voiceover might be slow, then I could maybe book some on-camera work. And if on-camera's slow, actually, we also rent out our house for productions in Kansas City and do commercials that way. So, and then last year, about a year ago, I started social media marketing, doing paid ads online on Instagram and Facebook for clients that can be based out of anywhere. And so just kind of adding to that wheelhouse of like, yes, this might be slow, but then there's this thing over here. So it's multiple safety nets, if you will.
Yeah. So given that, do you think that voiceover, is there a specific personality type that you think is best suited to this type of work? Or since there is that possibility of having multiple safety nets, do you think it's something that really anyone could do as long as you have that right mindset of just don't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak?
Yeah, I think anyone could do it. I mean, even yours and I's personality is very different, you know, and we're both in the same field. And there's so many different genres. I don't know that you would like speak to this, but there's so many different genres of voiceover. So and I think those genres lend themselves to different personalities as well. So there's different opportunities there. So I think, yeah, anyone could do that. I mean, there obviously is the risk of the financial piece of like, hey, am I just going to do this nights and weekends while I keep my day job? What amount do I need to make to feel okay? Or like, just even for me, it was setting that goal of like, okay, I'm going to give it a year and then I'm going to see where I'm at and seeing if I want to keep moving on from there. And everyone's story is so different. I think that's what's beautiful, but also really challenging.
Oh, for sure.
Because you can't look at it and be like, okay, year one, I'll make this because so-and-so made that, you know, like the trajectory is so different for everyone.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you get this, but it is, most people are fascinated by what I do. Like if you say you're a voice actor, they'll often comment on like, oh, someone told me once that my voice would be good for that. Or someone said I should do that, you know? But a lot of people don't necessarily make that leap or that jump to go try that.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about, I'm kind of holding off on getting in too much of your multiple streams of income because I want to talk about that in a bit. But what is the genre of voiceover work that has been kind of your mainstay?
Yeah, so e-learning and explainer videos are kind of a big wheelhouse. Like I said, I still do book commercially, but that's kind of a smaller percentage. And even the e-learning landscape is changing with AI and things like that. But e-learning, explainer work has been a big piece of what I've been doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
For people who are getting started in voiceover, what has been something that's been huge for you that you would say that you would advise a new voice actor do as they're exploring getting into this field?
Ooh, I mean, obviously consider your budget and what you can handle because there's so many things out there vying for your attention and vying for your money, honestly. So like, you don't have to have the nicest microphone ever. Get something that's, you know, even cheap, but it'll work. You know, get something that'll work for a year or two, especially if you're not sure if you want to do this. And then invest in some coaching, for sure. And not just some like, hey, I saw this guy on Facebook or this gal on Facebook, but find someone that comes recommended that you could see their reviews or samples of work. But definitely getting some coaching in there would be a huge piece as well. And I think it's just changing your mindset on that. Like, yes, it costs money, but like you want to grow as an actor and in your capabilities. So I think that would be a big piece. And then just getting auditions. So whether that's getting on production rosters or pay-to-plays, you know, again, everyone has different starts and ways they've done it, but just kind of that cutting your teeth, just starting, right?
Yeah.
Not just like, because I've also known people to grab a microphone and then it just sits there. So like, put yourself in front of people, start auditioning. You know, when you book something, you don't have to say like, this is my first job.
Please don't.
You know, just go. I remember the very first directed session I did.
Oh, yeah.
You gave me some good advice. Do you remember this?
I can imagine what the advice was because I think it's the same advice I give to anybody who's like in their first directed session. But what was it?
It was because in this particular session, there were like 8 other people on the side of the glass.
Yes.
Like, I went in person to record. The ad agency was there. The client was there. The audio engineer. There's like 8
Not
people.
intimidating at all, right?
No, not at all. And, you know, I do a read, and then it's silence. And then, so you said, hey, when that happens, it's not you. They're not over there being like, oh, did you? That was so awful. You know, like, they're over there. There's 8 of them or 10 of them, and they're trying to decide, okay, well, a little faster, a little slower, a little happier, a little more serious. Like, what about this word? Like, and, you know, so there's so many things going on.
Or they're just talking about lunch.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's very easy. And often because the engineer will silence them. So you literally see them talking, but you're like, what are they talking about? You know, so if you're that type of person that gets in your head, that can be...
You can start to spiral.
Yeah.
Really
So that
fast.
was very good advice. Like, hey, don't get in your head.
Good.
Hey, it's not a big deal. Like,
Okay.
they're probably just X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Voiceover has been such a good training ground for me for just resilience and confidence, and not getting in your head, because specifically those moments. I mean, I remember learning that lesson in the booth where you do your job and you trust that you did it well, and you don't let these negative thoughts come in. You assume that everyone's saying good things about you, and you keep your mind on the project and on doing well. And that reminds me of when my first directed session, my coach, Allison Steele, who you know and you've trained with some.
Yeah.
She said, I remember 2 specific things she said. One was, don't touch the microphone. and 2 was, walk in there and pretend like you've been doing this for, I think she said 2 years. But so it's like for at least 2 years, because you don't want to walk in and be, small and shy. You know, you've got to, it's not a fake it till you make it, but just be confident that you booked the job and you're there for a reason. And it's kind of fun that we're recording here right now, because our engineer is Neil Simpson, who he was the engineer my very first directed session.
Yeah.
And I was still working my corporate job, and I took a lunch break to go record these spots for REI, and Neil was the engineer there. And and I remember my very first job, but pretending like I knew what was happening, and that's something that carries over into life. Do you feel that in your personal life, that some of the lessons that you've learned as far as resilience and rejection, because we get a lot of that, do you find yourself being stronger and having like a stronger constitution in life because of those voiceover lessons?
Yeah. I mean, even in coaching sessions I've had with a couple of voice coaches that I really like, it's like, I'm sorry, is this a therapy session?
Oh, totally.
The things you can talk through and work through, it just feels like, I mean, it's great for personal, like, just, getting out of your head, just believing in yourself, just working through some things, because you kind of have to, you have to come with your, like, authentic self, or that you got to tell the story authentically. So you got to work through some stuff sometimes to get there. Yeah. But definitely I remember working with one of my voice coaches thinking, like, this feels almost like therapy, like the things we're talking through. Yeah.
Well, even, those small voices that show up, because I think sometimes even in recording sessions or in coaching sessions, it's not just, a performance issue. Sometimes those thoughts of, I should be doing something more responsible. I should be, doing X, Y, Z. My friends would never understand that, I'm here playing in a booth during the day. And those are the kinds of things that can ruin your read too. So it's not always just performance or I don't like the script. Sometimes it's just those little voices that are interfering. And so I think that's why the coaching sometimes does feel like therapy, because the coach has to root those things out. And you literally have to do that before you can give that authentic read that you were talking about.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so I want to get into now, you're just one of the most like industrious people I know. I feel like you're going to make it work, whatever happens. And so you mentioned like these different avenues of basically having an income that you've worked out, starting with voiceover and then kind of expanding from there. Yeah. So I think you said that it first started because your agent just said, would you be interested in on-camera? Yeah. So from there, was it just other things that kind of came your way that you realized, oh, this is kind of an outgrowth of what I've been doing? Or did you start to actively pursue, what are some other ways that I can utilize this basically this industry
Yeah.
and have multiple streams of income?
I mean, a little bit of both. So particularly with on-camera work, it was me going out there saying what other agents regionally would hire me where it would make sense for me to go on set. They might pay for mileage or to get me out there or a hotel, and then I have a threshold of okay, over this amount, I'll travel. And then with house stuff, it was actually a neighbor who's a producer that said, hey, this grocery store is looking to shoot. Could we use your staircase? And then after that, I thought, oh, this would be cool to do. Are there people I can contact? And she's like, yeah, there's actually a couple location people here in town. Let me give you their info. And then with the social media marketing piece that I started, that was more a very intentional of hey, it's kind of slower period right now. I don't know how long this is going to last. What's similar but different? And so, I mean, it's very different but still similar because it's still marketing. So I have clients that I'm helping digitally, because a lot of things are going online now, via Instagram and Facebook, do their ads online. So it's been another piece of the pie. So yes, a combination of all of those things, a little bit of intentionality and a little bit of it falling in my lap and being oh, I actually like this. What else can I do?
Yeah. And that has trickled down to your family.
Yeah.
So how did that start? And in what ways is your family involved in the business now?
Oh, okay. Yes. So COVID played a big role in that. I mean, we were doing some stuff together before that, but especially just on camera. And my kids have done some voiceover stuff too. I have one kid in particular that might be very interested in that and loves the acting piece of it. But a lot of times during COVID, they wanted real families that had been together. So that was kind of a natural thing. We're all, decent looking. So I kind of, yeah. So we just started auditioning together, and we've booked some things as a family, which is, I think, super fun to shoot. And then sometimes it's just last year, there was just my son and I that went on a shoot. And so sometimes they just want partial, or sometimes they just want the kids. So yeah, that's kind of been a fun, just side addition,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what about your husband? Because he's booked some work.
Yeah.
And he's not an actor.
Correct.
I mean, is that, yeah.
That is fair to say. Yes, it's so funny. Yes, he's not an actor, so he doesn't have big motivations of expanding or making it big, but if we're submitting as a family and can book as a family. But it is funny because he has booked a couple things himself. He booked a grocery store ad a couple years ago, and actually my mom booked it too, because I've gotten my parents involved locally. But my mom played his mom, which is funny. So they got booked together on something. So yeah, that'll also happen on occasion, but definitely not pursuing it like I'm pursuing it, because he has his own business.
So this is all your influence as far as your parents getting into it. And so what is that process? If, as they're curious about it and they're seeing you're booking things, is it just an introduction to your agent and then just say, hey, it's not going to hurt anything, just put your profile up there and let's see what happens? Or have any of them pursued it more intentionally, gotten acting training or anything like that?
My dad has pursued it a little more and done a little bit of coaching and training. But otherwise, it's different on camera than with voiceover. So, an agent wants to see, well, ideally, again, it's the cart before the horse thing. So the on-camera piece, as opposed to voiceover, would be hey, have you done any work? Hey, do you have a reel? Hey, can we see it? Well, then no. Well, then how do you get started? So a big piece is professional photos. Well, that's absolute minimum. You need headshots. And so having professional headshots done. So my parents went and did that. And then I introduced them to my agent. And then they've both booked a handful of things. We actually haven't booked anything together as a multi-generational family, but I think that would be super fun. We have submitted for things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you ever anticipate, do you think they would ever do improv classes? Or, I mean, talk about your experience with improv, because we've actually done improv training together.
Yeah.
We went through level 5, I think.
Yeah.
And so we're basically professionals.
Obviously.
But yeah, talk about that experience a little, and then do you feel like that's something that your family would also perhaps be interested in?
It's funny because level 1 is the most basic of basic introduction to games. And then by the time you and I got to level 5, which probably took about a year, it's literally the audience gives you a 1-word suggestion and you riff with it for 45 minutes. And you've seen partners and you tag in and out, but that's a lot of growth happening in that time. So it was very fun. It was very terrifying. I mean, I remember even being in class and just sweating, just being nervous, because I care a lot what people think too. So, and I want to be good at something when I haven't done it, which is so dumb. I shouldn't put that pressure on myself, but I want to automatically be like really good at it. But no, so we had student showcases in our classes, remember, where like our family would come and see. And this is just showing the different personalities of our family. 3 kiddos. One of them was so elated to be there. When they would take suggestions from the audience, one of my kids kept raising their hand, all the suggestions. My other kid literally was like, stop asking questions, and was like embarrassed for me or something, if you could be embarrassed on behalf of someone else. So I definitely see one of my kids being super interested in improv, but I think it would be a stretch for anyone else. But that said, I think any human being would benefit from improv. There's so many skills and so much confidence you can learn. I'm actually volunteering and teaching some middle schoolers now an intro to like improv and acting class. And it's been so fun just to like just see them play, and just there's so much you can grow in and learn in that arena.
Yeah. So if you could give a quick commercial for improv, you don't have to do like a voiceover commercial, but yeah, because what are some of the things, and taking just a little sidestep here, because I'm really passionate about improv because I think it's so important. And I think it's almost not a substitute, but it's almost therapy without realizing it. So like when you're in a coaching session, it feels like therapy sometimes because you're digging in, you're working through those things. But improv is so fun. I mean, what are the rules? It's like yes and. Yeah. So there are no wrong answers. Yeah. And like trust yourself, right? Go with your first instinct. Yeah. Which is actually really, really hard to do as an adult. But what are some of the benefits that you would say, and this can be both professional and personal, what are some ways that you've seen growth because of improv classes specifically?
Yeah, I mean, just thinking on your feet, just being quick to respond, that whole yes and of like, you're not analyzing something before it comes out of your head, you're just letting it go. Yeah. And so saying the first thing which comes out of your head, which sometimes isn't good in personal life. Yeah. I am a very honest person, but there are times I'm like, do you remember that time in improv class? I'm going to tell on myself right now.
Okay. I thought you were going to tell on me.
Oh, no. I'm telling myself. It was like after a show, and the guy that leads the improv came and was like, oh my gosh, that thing we got booked on together. And I had no clue what he was talking about. And I was like, yes.
Oh, no.
Do you remember this?
I do remember.
You were there. And he's like, so-and-so, this thing's going to happen. What do you think? And I was like, oh, man, I don't know what I think. That's going to be really challenging. Like, I like totally riffed and went with it.
You were yes-anding too hard.
Way too hard.
You took it into real life.
Where actually a couple weeks later, I felt convicted and bad about that, and I went and apologized. I was like, you know that thing you said? I don't know what you're talking about.
It's not me. Yeah. It's someone else.
But that aside, there is room for opportunity just to think on your feet, not overanalyze yourself, just have fun with it, grow in confidence. And your ability to do things. That's why I feel like it's just would be good in life.
Yeah. We take ourselves too seriously.
Oh, yeah. Way too seriously.
And especially like if you have a corporate job, which I did before getting into voiceover, you're just putting on a mask every single day. At least I was. I can't speak for everyone. But I think it is such a common thing to go to work and you pretend to be someone else the whole time. You're like hiding your true self. And I mean, not that censorship is totally, like you got to have a filter. Yeah. You can't be, totally out there at all times. But improv is a place where adults can go and like engage with that sense of play that we had as kids, where we all thought we were artists and we all thought we were actors.
And we weren't critical on it.
Yeah, we didn't speak negatively to ourselves all the time. Yeah. So I think, that's huge for personal life, but it is such a huge advantage in the booth also for directed sessions and doing multiple takes. How we all have, when we're younger, we don't have those inhibitions about being, just having negative thoughts and thinking we can't do everything. We think we can do everything. Yeah. And that creativity, that creative side is so important, and we just lose that little by little. I think improv is this amazing playground where we get to go and just do that again. Yeah. And I mean, I can't speak highly enough about it because I think it really does contribute to your adult life a lot also. So tell us a little bit about how, I guess, are there other avenues that you've considered that you think about doing next as far as ways to spread your entrepreneurialism? And are there things that you would recommend other people do as they're getting into voiceover if they wanted multiple streams of income?
Yeah. Yes, there are other things I consider, and it's just weighing like the cost benefit. Like I've definitely considered becoming a location scout.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I've seen that happen.
Talk a little bit about what that is.
Well, when you shoot a commercial, they need somewhere to shoot it. So wherever, whatever region, I mean, they're shooting in studio or they're using someone's house and renting it out. So a location scout is on top of that, coordinating all that. They're on set that day. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. And I'm sure a lot even I don't see, having not been one. But yeah, so they're putting houses out there based on photos, and the client and the ad agency are picking, based on the vibe and feel they want for their commercial. So I've thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about becoming a casting director here in town. If you're in town, you'll know. There could be great, things coming of that. It'd be great to have some diversity there. Just more opportunities for people. I've thought about that. Even just something like, hey, can you rework it? Can you bring it online? Can you make it more streamlined? There have been times in person I've been waiting for a casting and waited over an hour, to get seen, which is just inefficient. And so I've definitely had the thoughts of okay, do I want to do this? How much work would it be? What do I have to learn? What revenue would it be? Mm-hmm. So, and then you asked with voiceover, what other people would consider. Well, it on camera obviously is a big possibility. I don't know a lot of people that do both. Some voice actors, I have a friend that's adamant, I will never be in front of the camera, which is interesting to me that they love being behind the mic so much, but they're almost terrified.
It's totally different.
Of being in front of it is different. I've also thought I would be a great executive assistant. Maybe that's for me somewhere in life. I don't know. Yeah. It would have to be the right fit. But I'm so good at planning and organizing, which I used to think was not a skill. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoy it. Obviously, I do that in my business. But where else could I do that and have fun?
Yeah.
So, for voiceover, it's if someone wants to get into on-camera, obviously that's a possibility. I mean, people could do the home rental thing too. I mean, in their market, as long as they weren't in a tiny... small town, that's a possibility. I mean, there's so many possibilities of you could think of where does this touch together? Where does this meet? Yeah. And I guess you could do, I mean, I don't know what you think about the saying jack of all trades, master of none, of are you getting too thinly spread? Mm-hmm. At some point, do you need to stop doing that? And there are days, if I'm honest, where I think oh, where do I focus my time? Should I focus it on this thing or this thing?
Yeah.
So I guess that would be the only struggle or drawback if you're focusing on multiple things. But there's still just so many different opportunities. Why not try it?
So how would you recommend balancing that? Do you have a life philosophy of okay, because again, I see you as an entrepreneur and there's all of these different outlets for your creativity, for your skills, and you seem really in tune with the things that you're good at and the things that you enjoy doing, and kind of the intersection of how those things can make money. Do you have you mapped this out? Is this something that is really intentional, or do you find yourself just kind of falling into? I know you're not falling into it, but how intentional is that thought process of here's what I want to be doing, here's what I'm good at, here's what the market is, what's in demand?
Yeah. I am pretty intentional, but then still sometimes I feel stuck. On camera, for example, I'm at the behest of my agents. So I can't really, it's not something you really go out and get your own thing. So I'm kind of sitting and waiting in that regard on auditions. Mm. Yes, I've gone out and gotten these agents and created relationships and shown them that I can book work. But at some point, I just got to wait. And so that's hard. Mm. And even with voiceover, I've mentioned this to you personally, but all these years later, with reaching out to people or knowing who to work with, it's you feel like you've done everything under the sun, or maybe reached out to everyone, which obviously is not true. But and times are even changing. So it's how do I reach out that's relevant, that's not annoying? And then sometimes, if I'm very honest, it's just I'm just a little tired of it. I want to take a break from that because I've spent all these years doing this. So I kind of want to do not... I want to reach out differently, or I want to, and so then I'm not sure where to go with that. So I do feel I'm intentional, but I also can get stuck, if that makes sense, or not necessarily know what the next step is.
Yeah. Are you susceptible to the bright, shiny object syndrome? Do you, there's a new thing that comes along and you're oh, that sounds great, I should try that? Because I know, in a sense, that's sort of what happened with on camera. That's sort of what happened with your house, but it's not you've got your hands in everything, or every little thing that comes up, you're grabbing at it. So, How do you determine which things to put your energy toward and which things are just, oh, that's kind of a...
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't feel super susceptible to that. It's if it piques my interest enough, or if it keeps reoccurring, it wouldn't be something where I see it once and like get distracted. But it's more like, oh, this keeps popping up for whatever reason in conversation or online or the people I meet. And then it's enough to where like, I'm curious. So I'm going to learn more about that. It doesn't mean like I'm starting a business in that, but it's like, hey, I'm curious. I want to learn more. What's the next thing to learn about that? And so that's kind of how that's developed with the work that I do and how that's translated into work.
You mentioned that with voiceover work, you gave yourself, I think it was 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Is that right? Which even as you were saying it, I was like, that's not very long. Like most people, it takes longer than that for most people. So that's amazing that you were able to see enough success to keep going in that 6 months to a year. When you're considering other things to bring in, do you have a similar strategy or a similar mindset where, oh, we'll try this for a minute and see what happens?
Yeah.
How do you go into it?
I guess let's redefine a little bit too what success looks like. Because after that year, I mean, I think that first year I made $3,000.
Okay.
So it wasn't like I was making bank and I was like, yes, this is it. It's just like, I think I liked it enough. I think I saw a little bit of fruit. I think I thought, okay, this could be something sustainable. Yeah. And again, I was in a financial position where I didn't have to bring in a certain amount. I just had a little flexibility with my husband's income. So it would be very different if I was working full time at a corporate office, doing this on the side for a year in the evenings. I mean, I can see how you could easily grow weary of that or want to stop doing that. So yes, it was successful, but it depends on how you define it. It wasn't definitely didn't feel super financial successful, but I knew it had the potential, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so do you have that same mindset going into new things? Like when you started renting out your house or things, is it, hey, we'll just see what happens here, or you give yourself a time limit? Because there's some research and education that has to, everything, you have to learn the basics of that thing initially.
Yeah, and the house is quite unique. It's more like once you get it going, you can kind of set it and forget it. Like your city would have a couple location scouts. They have the pictures of your home. So if your home's not changing, there's not a lot to do except to stay in touch with them, like to stay top of mind. So I'll text them every once in a while. With the digital marketing, I said, hey, I'm going to give this a year and go for it and see what I think after that first year. And because I feel like for me, at least, then it's not this pressure of like, oh, I have to succeed and I have to succeed month one and be generating some income, and everyone does it differently. I didn't want to go into debt for business or work that I did, but it also alleviated that pressure of like, it doesn't feel like a long time, but it kind of does when you're in it too. Like a year, I feel like is enough time for me to know, hey, do I enjoy this?
Yeah.
Am I making any money doing this? Is this sustainable for me and my family and the other pieces of the business I have? Like those are the types of questions I'm asking.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to, whether you give yourself a strict time limit, first of all, that it needs to be realistic, right? Because some people are like, well, how long is it going to take me to start making money? Am I going to see a recoup on my investment in 3 months? The answer is no.
Yeah.
So just having realistic expectations going into it for any industry, not knowing anything about it, you are learning the industry as you're starting your business. So even when you say, before, my first year, I only made $3,000. Before anyone's shocked, like, oh my goodness, she only made $3,000 in the first year. That is starting from scratch. Yeah. I always talk about voiceover. Most people are starting voiceover as if they're going to college. So it's not that you've graduated college and now you're going to, start your business. You're learning it at the same time that you are trying to make money. Yeah. And so that first year, you're going to spend more than you make for sure because it's that investment to learn how to do it. Everything. If you're brand new, you don't know what, how a microphone. I had a student one time who we couldn't figure out, and this is a virtual student, so if we'd been in the same space, I would have noticed it right away. Couldn't figure out why her sound was so muffled. Yeah. And it was like, we're checking cables, we're, trying to troubleshoot all these things. She had her microphone backwards. And it's should have still been one of the first things I checked, like, is it aimed the right way? But little things like that you are just it's fascinating to me how you start at zero and like now you know more about recording and voiceover than 90 whatever % of people on the planet from just
not more than Neil though in there.
Not more than Neil.
I love my audio engineers.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like that book written years and years ago, The E-Myth, that I probably read 20 to 25 years ago. Like, you can be good at your craft, but you might not be a good business owner. Like, you have to also, like, so you're not only carrying the weight of, like, the voice acting piece, but you're running a business, and you're opening up QuickBooks, and you're getting an accountant, and you're, doing the invoicing, and you're, like, there's so many different aspects of running a business. So, you could even be like a mediocre voice actor and run a business really well and be more successful than like a brilliant voice actor who is never on time and doesn't know how to run the business and just topsy-turvy, Like, I really do think you can be successful and not be a total badass voice actor if you're really good at, like, the business and the intentionality and the goal setting and things like that. So.
Yeah. What has this meant for your kids, or being a mom of these kids and them seeing you create your business and you've done so many different things. I know we've talked about the entrepreneurial things, but you've spoken to groups before on e-learning, and you've done other things just to give back within the community, using your voiceover platform to serve specific niches within the voiceover community. So as your kids have seen you do that, because your younger daughter, she doesn't, does she remember before you did voiceover?
No, probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So what has that been like for them, seeing you kind of conquer those things? Like, are they just too used to it and they don't even...
Maybe, because it's their normal, right?
Yeah.
Like, ask them in 10 years and see what they think when they're adults. But, it's their normal. They both see their mom and dad be entrepreneurs and really solopreneurs, because we don't have employees. And so that's a different discussions happening around our house, around finances and business and decisions, different things on our walks than, if someone was working for a big company. So I guess time will tell, because it is their normal. Yeah. But they even get used to, especially when they're home in the summer, there's a different rhythm we have. And now that they're getting older, it's a little easier. But if I have to do an audition or something, I literally yell out, like, quiet on set. And they know to be quiet for a few minutes. Or like even yesterday, my 15-year-old was home and I said, hey, I'm going to do an audition real quick, an on-camera audition. So she knows, don't come downstairs, don't yell out, hey, mom, the laundry, whatever the thing is, because it's like, hey, I just need some space to do this. Yeah. But again, that's like their normal and what they're used to. But I think we're also trying to create like entrepreneur endeavors for them, whether that's them like working in my business or like them doing their own thing with the neighborhood. Like, hey, how can you generate income? There's also lots of facets of it, like even just with money when they are making money, like teaching them to give, save, and spend. Like, so there's lots of different elements that go into it. But I think hopefully in some ways they're not afraid to make mistakes, maybe like I was, of like, oh, I don't want to do it wrong. It's like, hey, mistakes are okay. They're great learning opportunities. Like, we can grow from this. Hopefully they see some of that.
Do you see any of those qualities in your kids right now?
I'm sure I do. It's that whole
You don't
thing
have to go into too much detail.
Yeah. I see them every day. So it's hard. It's like when someone sees your kids and they haven't seen them in 6 months and they're like, oh, they've grown. Yeah. And you're like, well, I didn't notice it. It's like, well, I see them every day. So it's hard to like notice those things. Yeah. But I'm sure they have. I even got the opportunity to speak at my daughter's high school career day. And that was really cool because we brought in my agent here in town and a producer that I'm friends with. And we kind of started from beginning to end, like filming a commercial, like and how that looks from the talent side, from the agent side, from the producer side. Speaking of the giving back piece, because it's just, again, it's something I didn't know of in high school, and like just how cool to educate these girls and say like, hey, here's lots of different things you can do within media, within film. So
with your family, does it feel like, do you consider that they have their own careers within voiceover and acting, or is it more of a family endeavor? Like, you manage them, you help them with their auditions, you help them with demos and connections. Yeah. And it's more of a way that it's more of under your umbrella of
Yeah.
your business versus them having their own.
Yes, I think it's under my umbrella. It's very family motivated. Maybe my youngest, my 10-year-old might want to do like really lean into some acting and stuff like that, but none of them have been super like, this is all I want to ever do, you know,
Yeah.
like, and they're kids. They're trying out lots
Yeah.
of different things at this point. But yeah, at this point it's kind of under my umbrella and leadership and like be like, hey guys, we have a family audition type of thing. So
Yeah. Well, I think it's really neat that they get to see your example and also your husband's, because he's, like you mentioned, he's a solopreneur, but he's been doing the same thing for
Yeah.
a while. And you're a solopreneur, but you've been doing different things. And I think that's a really
Yeah.
neat thing for kids to see that, you know, and I imagine it helps toward that. Maybe they won't have that same experience where a lot of us do, where it's like, oh, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But if they see you trying different things, like maybe they can go into adulthood and still think, oh, we can try this. We've seen
Yeah.
mom try these other things. And
Yeah.
and in a responsible way, too. I think that's really
Yeah.
important to point out, because I think some people are a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
There's this great new thing, and
Yeah.
I'm going to, you know, they're jumping into a new thing every
Yeah.
other month. But you've been very thoughtful and intentional and consistent with your business endeavor choices. And I almost can't imagine a better environment for kids to grow up in, to
Yeah.
see that kind of responsibility
Yeah.
and also flexibility. And I think that's a really great gift to give them, for them to see that. And then also, you know, your dad, who is
Yeah.
a corporate employee for his entire
Yeah, he worked for the
career.
same company for 42 years.
Right.
And then retired.
Yeah.
But there's a secret, like, acting trophy he has in a bin we found from high school. And we're like, what are you hiding here? You know, and now he's doing some on-camera commercial stuff. So
is this is like a hidden thing that he's been wanting to do for a long
Totally.
time. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
never too late. I
Never
love that.
too late. Yes, I love that. Didn't even Morgan Freeman start later in life? Like,
That's what you always hear.
I got to see
I
him in
believe it, but I
person.
don't
He
know.
came to Kansas City last month, and it was literally my dream.
It's true.
Yeah, if I
Yeah.
could pick someone to read me bedtime stories, it would be Morgan Freeman.
Or Tyler Perry.
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of the responsibility and also the flexibility, there's so many different ways to make a living. There's no, I don't want to say there's no wrong way to do it, but we give ourselves all of these limiting beliefs and these stories, or even just the safety myth, you know, because there are people who've been in corporate and they, you know, whether it's something that they enjoyed or that they're doing because of pressure from family, and then they lose their job.
Yeah.
You know, so there's this deception or myth of
Yeah.
stability and all of these different things.
Yeah.
And, you know, we started off talking about how you are a go-getter, for lack of a better word. And I think that is something that has been really beneficial for you, is putting kind of betting on yourself and saying, whatever it is I choose to do, I'm going to put forth my best effort in
Yeah.
that, and trust my training and trust my intelligence and my
Yeah.
judgment, and also be realistic about it
Yeah.
and put myself in the right environments, have the right team
Yeah.
and, you know, encouragement around me.
Yeah.
But there's no wrong way to go about building that
Yeah.
career or business.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned Go-Getter, because my daughter won the Go-Getter award last night for her golf
funny.
team.
What does that mean in golf?
That's a great question. What does that mean in golf? I think it was her first year trying golf. So, like, she was confident and, like, stick-to-itiveness of, like, hey, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Like, even though she didn't have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's really important. And just, if I could give advice, it just would be being gentle and kind to yourself. Like, we are our own harshest critics. So, like, give it time, and then just find people you can, when you are having a bad day or a hard day, like, just that can listen, that can encourage you, that can speak truth to you. And like I said, I wouldn't be where I am without people further along in the process coming alongside. I just think in a world that's so divisive right now, like, why not just come alongside one another and help when we can, versus seeing someone else as a competition. I mean, whoever's going to get the job is going to get the job. It doesn't mean you don't help a person out along the way. So I think community is very important in that as well.
Yeah. You mentioned that you your experience was that you didn't necessarily have to start making money right away. And some people I can hear, saying to themselves, well, that's great, but I don't have the time to put in all of that, or I don't have the money to invest in that right now. Do you have thoughts for people who maybe don't have full-time or even part-time hours to devote to getting into voiceover? Like what are some things that you feel would still be helpful to do when you're working a full-time job?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could even say, like, maybe it's not the time. Maybe it's not the season. I mean, actually, with voiceover, I didn't say this, but when our youngest, we adopted her, when she came home, I started doing voiceover that year. You kind of started getting me into it, and I was probably 2 or 3 months in, and I literally thought, I can't do this. Like, I have a literal baby at home and 2 other toddlers. Like, this is not the time for me. So just, I think there can be wisdom, not like to kick it down the road continually or not ever do it, but, is this a season where I do have margin, where I can start something, and realistically kind of assess that. And if not, say like, hey, maybe next fall or maybe in the spring, or, just being realistic about it, I think would be a huge thing. But also knowing yourself enough not to not start if that's something that's always been in the back of your head. Like I said, like if it keeps coming back as a thought of like, maybe I should do this and maybe I could do this, then do it. Like email people, pay them for their time, we talked about voiceover coaching, but I think even business coaching can be huge. Sitting down with someone. I know you and I both have done business coaching in the past, sitting down with someone, just picking their brain of like, I think it's well worth whatever the cost is of that, just to figure out from someone like, hey, where do I start? What do I spend on this? What do I do here? Just getting some advice and setting a budget for yourself and going from there.
Yeah. So I think we've talked about kind of 2 different groups of people. And of course, it can be more dynamic than that. But there are some that are too into the bright shiny object and trying to try everything and not maybe being as slow to consider, is this something that I should put my time into? And then others who will sit on it forever and never take that leap forward. So whichever camp you fall into, hopefully this has been an encouraging conversation to, if you have been sitting on it for a long time and you really need to take that leap, consider this the kick in the behind.
Do it, yeah.
To go for it and just start taking those first steps and find a community. I have a group, the Voiceover Success Intensive, which is such an amazing community, and we get together and talk, and there's voice actors from every level, beginner, just heard about voiceover yesterday, to full-time voice actors who've been in the community for 5+ years. And it's just so important to, in such an isolating industry where you're in a booth talking to yourself, to have other people who you can converse with and help hold you accountable and just be there. We talk about wins every month, and sometimes the win is just, I'm here today. And that's huge. And that is, we've all been there. So, if that's you, and, conversely, if you're someone who is, always looking for the next thing, maybe this is an encouragement to slow down and to weigh the cost. I think that's always really important, to have realistic expectations. And also, if you're going into an endeavor where the expectation is, or someone has told you, this is going to be really fast and easy, it's probably not.
Yeah, no, never.
You probably want to go the other way.
Yeah.
And find someone who's going to give you a real grounded perspective on, anything that is that's worth having. It takes work.
Yeah.
And maybe another time we can talk about marketing, because I know that's been something that is, just takes a lot of consistency. You don't see the payoff right away, usually, although sometimes it can be quicker. But anything else that you wanted to add or to share with the broader voiceover or creative community?
I would say just be curious, like as you explore all these options and figuring out what you want to do, whether it's voiceover, another entrepreneur endeavor, just be curious with yourself. Like I think of The Artist's Way, which if you're familiar with that workbook, my husband went through it with a group of people. That's a great like curiosity, like when someone's creative, of like walking through what do I want to do? How do I want to do this? Is this the season? And just find like a safe person you can talk through with that. And then just write down some ideas and just like you were saying, just take a step. It doesn't have to be monumental, but if you are wanting to do something, just take that first step and just go from there.
Yeah. Awesome. And join an improv class because you won't regret it.
Yes.
Everyone should join an improv class.
Yes. So fun.
Yeah. Virtual or in person, preferably in person, but if virtual is all you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here,
Yeah,
Rachel. It
thanks
was
for
so much
having
fun talking to you and picking your brain. I think I learned some things, even though, I didn't know I'd learn anything new about you.
Ooh,
But
okay. Sounds fun.
all right. Well, where can people learn more about you or find your...
Oh, yeah. So rachelportervo.com is my voiceover and on-camera work. And then Full Stop DM is my digital marketing social media ad website as well. So would love for you guys to just shoot an email and say hi. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But thanks for everyone's time.
All right. Thanks so much.
Okay.
All right.